So, well, we get organized here a little bit. This is a panel on future analysts. So we're gonna pose questions to Jen, Allison, and Hans, and they're gonna give you their insights on the various questions we have. There'll be a chance for folks in the audience to put something in the chat function, and I will curate them and ask them to the panel. We'll give all the panelists an opportunity to participate. And we're going to start off with a question to each one of you in 2 to 3 minutes, not too long. Jen, I'm going to pick on you first because, well, I can. Would you introduce yourself? How did you get into business analysis? And why do you think it's so important?
Oh, well, hello, everyone. I am Jen Battan. I have, and I'm with the Uncommon League. Thanks for playing games with me today. Glad I could help you all out and have a little bit of fun and get to listen to some fun music. How'd I get into business analysis? Completely by accident. I'm actually a journalist and graphic designer by trade. I started by education. I went to college for advertising and broadcast journalism, ended up at an ad agency and stumbled my way into technology completely accidentally. I spent about 6 months attempting to be a project manager and then saw the error of my ways and transitioned over into the BA role very quickly and found my people, found my home, found the kind of work that I really love to do. What was the last part of that question, Joe? It was too much. It was too much.
And why do you think it's important?
Why do you think it's important? Well, of course, so here's the thing. I think business analysis is important because of the curiosity that BAs bring to the table. We are allowed to ask all of the wild and crazy questions and to dig deeper into anything. You have the opportunity to learn and to ask people, why do you do it that way? Is that the best way to do it? Are there other options? That's why business analysis is so important. If all we do is take orders, we're never going to change. We're never going to change our systems. We're never going to change our strategy. We're just going to do what's always been done because nobody likes change. We talked about that this morning as well, right? So that's why I think it's so important. We need to ask those questions and employ that critical thinking.
Thank you, Jen. Allison, I'll toss the ball to you next. What do you think?
Hello, everyone. Nice to meet you all. So I'm Allison Straker. I'm supposed to say I'm a business analyst. I work with Hans. That's what I do. That's my job description. But how I got into business analysis. So when I graduated from school, I took computer science, was like, there's no way I'm going to be a developer. So your project management story, Jen, that was my story with development. Like, nope, not for me. I knew I needed to blend people and tech. And I remember going to job fairs, when I was in school and saying, okay, this is my degree. No one had heard of human computer interaction. I went around and I'm like, this is what I've done. Do you guys have a job for me? And they're like, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I ended up landing at a bank and they were like, yeah, that sounds really interesting, but we're not going to hire you into a BA job right away. So I had to suffer doing something else until I got my chance and I was able to get into the BA world and stayed there for about 15-ish years. Because like you, Jen, I found my people. I found my calling. I found, what made me happy. I wanted to blend people in tech. I thought that they were two vastly different animals and I wanted to figure out a way to bring them together and have them make sense. And so that's my story, how I got in.
Thank you, Allison. Hans, a little bit about you. How did you get into the business and why it's important? You're muted.
Can't hear you.
Something's muted.
All right, a little better?
Yes.
All right, thank you. The double mute got me again. So like almost everyone in IT, I got in completely by accident, unintentionally, and realized after about a decade that there was an actual name and certification for my affliction. I had been trying to figure out and better define what we were building as a service provider, as a consultant, as a software development team, before we had massive overruns since we were doing fixed price projects, and then suddenly discovered that that was the wonderful world of business analysis and architecture. To me, technology is more than an enabler of organizations, an enabler of value. It's the entire foundation. You can't even buy Girl Scout cookies without technology. So the business analyst is in the best position to figure out, what are you trying to really accomplish? And how can we help you accomplish that better, faster, cheaper, more efficiently? And actually, in a lot of surveys, it is the #1 profession that can prepare you for senior leadership or to become a CEO one day, if for some reason you hate your family and want to work all the time.
Thank you, Hans. And
I always
just a
wish that
reminder
like
to
the
everybody,
president, that's what I always say is I always think the president should have had, any president, doesn't matter which one, all of our politicians should like spend a year doing business analysis work. Not that that'll ever happen.
you let me know how that goes, Jen.
I know, I
All
can
right.
dream. I can
I've
dream.
got a bunch of questions here. Again, I'm going to keep an eye open in the chat area. Anybody has a question for the group, toss it in, and I will introduce it in the file. So Allison, I'll let you go first on this one. Do you have a favorite technique, topic, area that gets you excited, around the business analysis or agile world?
I think for me, it's making sure that people have an idea of the overall context, that they know what they're doing before they start getting in. So currently what I do is I advise some of our clients on things like business analysis. And it amazes me the amount of people who still kind of just jump in feet first and don't really realize that they need to know that bigger picture so that they can ask the right questions. So it's really understanding that broader context, understanding what it is you're trying to do, why you're trying to do it, what's really going to add value. That I think is exciting, and I could talk about that. But
Anything
I
to
got
add value,
that
huh?
other stock. Yeah.
All right, sounds great. Hans?
Sorry, I was distracted by the chat. Filling it. What can I fill into Alan's? I thought she covered it very well there.
What's your favorite technique, Hans?
Oh, so I'd say, if you could change anything about your job, what would it be? You discover more through the pains and the frustrations than I think anything else. And if you really want to get people talking, they love to complain. They love to see someone empathizing. After that, there's tons of great techniques for being more structured, but just sitting down and finding out, we used to use a question in our innovation group. What is so painful at work that your entire family knows about it? And that usually is a great way of getting things rolling.
Well, you hit one of my favorite techniques. Ask a question. Be perpetually curious. So ask a question. Jen?
See, now I'm a techniques person. So to ask me to pick one is like asking me to pick a favorite child or something like that. But I do have a favorite tech. What was that, Hans?
Which is your son?
I have 3 sons. I always say I have a favorite daughter because I only have one of those. I have a favorite Ben, a favorite Dan, and a favorite Nick. So that's what I always say to them. So honestly, I do have a favorite technique that I believe I do on every project, no matter what. Even if I come into the middle of a project, I will always create a functional decomposition diagram. It helps me to understand what is supposed to be being built. It helps me. I was once handed a requirements document. I was going into a project, and on the first day they said, "Oh, we're almost done with the requirements document. It's in really, really good shape. We're actually sending it out right now as part of an RFI. You can go ahead and read it and learn all about the project." I was reading it and I was so confused. I ended up creating a functional decomp just so I could see what the project was about. see the different functionality that was being requested. And then the next day, I brought it to the other BAs on the team and I said, I just have a couple of questions. And I found holes, I found duplicated requirements. There were requirements for a search 6 times. Different search each time. Does that mean it's 6 different searches? Oh no, it's just one search with 6 different criteria. And I said, not the way you wrote the requirements. You just made those vendors a lot of money, and they were horrified. So if you aren't doing functional decompositions, I think you ought to start. There are several other little favorites that I love. To bring up another question that is a great one is, what questions should I have asked? What questions am I not asking? That's a great way to get people talking as well, because they're hoping that you're going to ask something and they'll share it with you anyway.
I heard 3 soft skills and one methodology. So having good soft skills. All right, sounds good. Hans, I'll let you go first this time. When we talk about future of business analysis, a lot of things can pop up. Data, security, process, domain. I mean, I could go forever. Where do you see things going? What area do you think is most hot or least hot?
So I would definitely say, if with every economic swing, whether it's an upswing or a really bad swing, companies have learned that they really don't like people and don't need as many people to run. And that really means they're looking for ways to deliver the same value, the same services with less cost. A lot of that is coming through process improvement, process automation, robotic automation, and AI. So the analyst is going to be king and queen in the new world, because they are going to be the ones who are going to define the processes and the rules that all of these machines will operate under. And even more importantly, they're going to be in the position to provide compliance and prevent companies from getting sued due to unintended consequences of some of those automated decisions. So I see a lot in RPA, a lot in AI. And if you want to double your salary, security is not going away. It's always going to be there. It is in hot demand. There were never enough people. I don't like security after being in that area for a little bit, because I don't like a job where your perfect day is nothing bad happened. I like a little bit more success to keep me going.
Thank you, Hans. Jen?
Oh gosh, the trend related stuff. You know, I agree with everything that Hans said. It's absolutely, I was sitting here trying to decide. I don't think Agile is going away, but I think Agile is changing. And I think that we're starting to see something happening within the Agile space. And I'm interested to see what happens and what the next face of Agile is going to look like. I think that there are organizations that have been doing the half-hearted Agile, or the sort of kind of Agile, because I bet there are a lot of BAs in this room right now who are Agile BAs, and you're doing Scrum, and guess what? There are no BAs in Scrum. So, right? So what the heck are we doing, right? So I really think that Agile is still something to keep an eye on and to understand, but I think it does, Paul mentioned in the chat, practical Agile. I think that the Agile purists are still in the, this is what we want to do. But what we forget is that the people who wrote that manifesto were a bunch of developers who were trying to figure out how to deliver software better, cheaper, faster. And if you ask any developer on the planet how they could do their job better or what would make their jobs easier, they would say, I don't want to do status reporting. Don't have somebody over my shoulder asking me, are you done yet? Are you done yet? There are no PMs. And I don't want to read big honking documents. There are no BAs. Surprise, surprise, what's been going on, right? I think we're realizing that it's still important. We still have to have this knowledge and understanding, but the transformation that has gone from waterfall and all the planning up front to the agile purist view hasn't gone the way most organizations have wanted it to. So we have these funky hybrids, and those aren't working either. I think there's a new thing coming. I don't know what it is yet. But I don't want it to just be waterfall with scrummy words. I don't think that that's the way we should go. And I think that from a requirements and a user analysis, the user experience, the customer analysis stuff, and what we do as BAs is really, really important for whatever that future holds. And so I think we need to be at the forefront of that, if only we can make that happen.
Awesome. Allison, I lost my train of thought. I don't think I gave you a chance. So I'm gonna give you either a second chance or the first chance.
It'll be the first, but I just
Okay,
echo
good.
what Hans and Jen said anyways. Because I agree. I mean, security, cloud, data, those are songs I keep hearing about from different organizations. That's what their focus is on. How do we not get hacked? How do we take advantage of our data and make sure we provide the insights that we need to our partners and to ourselves? I just lost my train of thought. See, look what you did.
It's contagious.
Blame Hans.
It's always Hans's fault.
Always. I'm glad we can agree on that, Allison. That's wonderful.
I'm the chief scapegoat in all organizations usually.
That is your title, and that's why I love you, Hans. But yeah, no, those are all important, and I agree as well with what you were talking about, Jen. Agile has transformed, or should, or will be transforming. I don't think most organizations are doing it the traditional or the standard, I guess, maybe way, and I think that's actually a good thing. It should be something that is appropriate to the workplace, to what you need to deliver. I mean, that's why I think all these people are here as well, because just because organizations have gone agile doesn't mean that business analysis has gone away. It becomes more important. So it's something that's always going to be there. The other piece, and Jen, I think you touched on it a little bit at the end as well, is around user experience. And I know that's something that some BAs touch upon, some don't, but I do think that is something that becomes more and more important as we are, kind of looking at, what is it we actually want to deliver, and how is it that we want to deliver. We need to make sure that we account for the experiences, so that we're actually creating a product that, or service or solution or whatever, that people actually are going to consume and use, and make our organization billions of dollars so that they can pay us a penny more, that kind of thing. So.
And Joe, can I add, not necessarily add, but maybe ask another question to the rest of the group here, this idea. So both Allison and I mentioned this idea of the user experience, and one trend that I'm seeing with clients that I work with, BAs come through, as I'm a trainer, so I end up seeing a lot of folks through public classes, at conferences, et cetera. And I'm hearing a lot of organizations where they have a user experience team or a UX team or UX designer. And I'm hearing more and more teams that are saying, well, the UX person does that, we're not allowed to. And my response to that, in my safe and secure little office here in Minnesota, I can say, no, don't let them box you out. I feel like we're being body blocked as BAs in some organizations from doing anything with user experience. Are you two seeing that, hearing that? Or what would your advice be to BAs who are being told that's what the UX team does, you don't need to do that?
So I'll steal it first and just say that one of the things that I try to talk to, because I talk to user experience people as well, and make sure that they know that it's not just them sitting in their little ivory tower doing their stuff. I mean, just like any other role, you can't sit in your little tower and do your thing and expect people to magically accept it and for it to be okay. You really need to bring them in. Whether that's, letting them see some of the results of the sessions, letting them understand what the challenges are that people are going through. Because as a BA, you need to understand that, because that will then set that context that I was talking about earlier for what someone needs to do, for what, what's needed in the requirements. I won't know that unless I have that interaction as opposed to reading it or hearing it second, third hand from the UX team.
So user experience to me falls into the same category as quality and security. Yes, we have specialists who can help us and guide, but it's everyone's responsibility. The BAs are known for ensuring that the changes we're making are going to help you perform and complete a task, fill a need, be able to do something successfully. If that isn't user experience, I don't know what is. So when it comes to some of the design, some of the best practices and the standards, yes, going with an expert, learning from them, but it is everyone's responsibility to ensure the best possible user experience.
Sounds awesome. All right, before I toss out my next question, just remind anybody in the audience, if you have a question you want to pose to the panel, toss it in the chat. I will then curate it and ask the panel. So go out to all three of you. What should business analysts be doing now to improve their career? Anybody want to take that first?
We're all looking thoughtful. Hans just has a Cheshire cat grin.
I'm gonna, Allison, you
first.
got the ball.
I'll go first because that way it's easiest. That way, you know, you guys have something to build on and you can say a better answer than me. I would just say overall lifelong learning. Like one of the questions you asked about were trends. And trends are going to come and go. But one of the things we always have to understand, like what's out there. Bring that knowledge to what we're doing so that we can add more impact. So it just, in general, lifelong learning. I'm not going to say one specific course or one specific topic, but just in general, lifelong learning.
Sounds good. Anybody want to build on that?
Yeah, I'll agree. And maybe what I'll add is the idea of remember that anything is interesting if you dig deeply enough into it. So, and then you can make additional connections, right? So, and what I mean by that is you might get assigned to a project that you're like, I'm not interested in this industry. I don't understand it. I'm confused. Things get interesting once you start digging into it. And we are curious by nature. That is why we're business analysts. I'm going to bet for at least 80% of us, we are curious by nature, and that's what we want to dig into. So we want to dig into something, so dig into it. Even when you have side hobbies and other things that you're interested, if you're interested in cryptocurrencies and trying to understand what's going on in the crypto world and what's going on with blockchain and how does blockchain end up doing something else, it's not, blockchain is not only a cryptocurrency thing, like it can be used in other ways. And if this just fascinates you, or it fascinates somebody in your household and you're forced to learn it, then you can connect those dots. You can realize, hey, there's this other thing going on in this other industry, and we can take advantage of that. We can try this thing. Did we know that, hey, from a security perspective, we don't want people claiming they're a CBAP and they're actually not. We can prove that somebody is a CBAP because there is actually a blockchain segment that says Jen Battan is a CBAP, right? Or stuff like that. Like, so when you get curious about something and you do research or you have other interests in your life, it can be something like sailing, boating. I talk about knitting in my classes. We talk about all of these different contexts that we live in. You can bring those back to your day-to-day lives. I swear it. And it's going to come up randomly and oddly, but you will make some connection that helps you to realize something new and helps you to innovate. And that's what we're all looking for.
Oh, good. Hans, do you want a chance to add on?
Yeah. So building your toolbox and domain knowledge is a lifelong process. With every other free minute, I would say build your soft skills and leadership skills. Focus as much effort on emotional intelligence, facilitation, presentation, interpersonal skills. If there's any area that BAs tend to hide behind our analysis and love to be in the documents and not with people, those are the areas that will drive more opportunities and more growth potential than anything else. So really, soft skills and leadership, spend as much time on them as you possibly can.
Yeah,
I want to build on that because the question could have come out about direction in terms of tools or parts, subparts of the problem. But what are some of the areas that never go out of style? And I heard you say, Hans, soft skills. Allison or Jen, do you want to add anything to that?
I'll pop in with kind of to build off of what Hans says, and if you're looking for a way to build some of those skills, I am often asked what should I be doing as a BA? Is there a book I should read, a club should I join IIBA? Yes, there are 2 professional development organizations every BA should be an actual member of. Pay the money and become a member of IIBA. Absolutely, positively. It gets you access to local chapter events. These events matter, you guys. How much did you learn today? If you learned at least 3 things today, this was well worth your time. There are monthly meetings, and all of that poll earlier about, would you go to a lunch meeting? Would you go to a dinner meeting? The answer should be absolutely. That is investing in yourself. So 1, join IIBA, become an actual member, and attend events. If you have the time to volunteer in other capacities, absolutely do that. Number 2 is to join a Toastmasters club. If you are not comfortable presenting in front of a group that's larger than 10 people in a conference room, you need to work on those skills, because there is going to be a day when someone says, can you come and present on this project? And you're going to walk into some room, and it's going to be full of directors and maybe the CIO. And if the thought of that is making your palms sweat and you're having heart palpitations, go join a Toastmasters club. There are so many Toastmasters clubs out there. If you visit clubs before you join one, there are usually corporate clubs at your company. I'm going to bet large companies, I know they exist here in the Twin Cities. I know a lot of folks that are in here now are from the Minneapolis, St. Paul area. There are tons of corporate clubs. If you don't like the vibe in that club, go to Toastmasters.org and find another club. Visit a couple of clubs and you will find a place that feels comfortable, feels fun, make it happen. There are some women's only clubs or women's leadership clubs that are fabulous. There are some comedy clubs. Hey, if that works for you, go for it. That it is meant to be a nurturing environment where we're all trying to help each other get better. So those are the 2 things that I would recommend, as I stutter because it's been a long day. But that's what I do. Join IIBA and join Toastmasters.
Thank you. Allison, would you like to add anything?
Sure, I'll build off of what Jen and Hans mentioned. Definitely you want to keep the learning, the soft skills. What I would say definitely with the associations is not the knowledge that you get is critical, of course, but I would also add on the networking. Just the people that you're interacting with, sometimes on a topic that you wouldn't even think is relevant to what you're doing, but you'll learn some little nugget that will be helpful and valuable to you. So yeah, I would say just overall, keep your network going, reach out to people, connect with them, learn from them. In my previous job, I remember we had a little network of BAs. And so people in different parts of our organization would come together, have discussions about some of their challenges, and we'd figure out, oh my goodness, I'm not the only one who has this problem. Oh my goodness, there's another way I can look at addressing this problem. That stuff is invaluable.
Awesome. Hans, you started this deal, but I'm going to give you one more chance if you want to add it.
Allison said what I was going to add. So
All
we're
right,
good.
sounds good.
Let's go for the next one.
We kind of talked about how to stay current and how to stay relevant in terms of how did you get into the industry and things like that. Are there any don'ts that come to mind? Are there any things you would give advice for people that may want to? I'd like to. I don't want to say I'm bored. I want to try something new. I want to, whatever the deals are. Any career change kind of things you'd like to suggest to people. Hans, would you like to go first?
Yeah. So there is one person in the universe who is holding you back right now and preventing you from living up to your own potential. And that's you. I have seen more people, and especially BAs, not accept their potential, not be willing to step out, to volunteer, to take on new opportunities, to not think highly of themselves. So I would say build your peer network, build your friends so that you can understand how awesome you are and how important the work you do is. Because if you don't believe in yourself, no one else is going to. And that's what's holding you back. So when you say, why did this person get promoted? Why did they get on the good project team? Why are they out speaking and I'm not? It's because you're not stepping out and taking that chance and believing in yourself. So we believe in you. That's why we're here. We want you to believe in you too.
Sounds good. As president of IIBA, I always talk up about the opportunities to volunteer and grow, whether it's to gain a new skill or enhance an existing skill, whatever is your choice. All right, and we have volunteer coordinator Kristen's on the call. So if anybody wants to hear more about opportunities, we love it. Thank you. I did not ask for this, but I love it.
Well,
put your name in the chat and we'll be happy to reach out to you.
And you guys, when we're talking about volunteering and things like that, this is important to us because without volunteers, you don't have to say, yes, I'm willing to take on a board position. This is not hours and hours and hours, and it's not, IIBA does not have to take over your life, right? I got involved in IIBA. I was a charter member of this chapter. I literally helped get it off the ground back however long ago it was. What are we, close to 15 years right now? And yes, I was on the board for many years, and I was really involved because to me, I was making a statement to my company and to myself that this is the career I want. If any of you are in positions where your leaders, I had a boss who said, I was like, I want more responsibility at work. How can I do that? And he said, become a project manager. And I said, no. And I turned around, I walked out of that meeting and I sat down at my desk and I signed up to take the CBAP exam. I don't know that I'd recommend that to everyone. Revenge certification is not the best plan, folks. But that to me was taking a stand and saying, I know what I want to do with my career. I know what I want to do for a job. And so that's where getting involved and prove it to yourself, right? Prove to yourself that you can do it. If you can coordinate a little something, you can do this. And it can be something as little as helping to monitor a room at a professional development day, right? It doesn't have to be a ton. Back to the additional information or the what people do wrong. I had a thought and then it completely went away because I got so excited about the other thing. It just like completely left.
Well, and I want to, as much as I want to talk about volunteering opportunities, I do want to change the tenor. So Jen, can we come back to you?
That's fine. You can. You're totally allowed.
Okay, then Allison, something you want to add?
Sure. I would just say, don't be afraid to try. Don't be afraid to try and fail, especially because you don't know unless you've tried it, right? So there's so many people, this is what I want to do. And really that's all they know. They don't know anything outside. They haven't really expanded their view. So by trying a project that you think you might hate, but you don't really have any real reason to think that it's really that bad. You just, maybe your friend told you that you might not like it, or try it anyways. You might learn what you hate, or you might learn that it's not so bad. It might actually help you on your journey, because career journeys are not straightforward. They are winding, right? So the only way you can get that is by trying different things and seeing where your career winds to.
I've got a question that just popped into my head. As we're talking, I'm hearing this job, and then that job, and then maybe this job. Is there anything wrong with being a Swiss Army knife? I am a business analyst, I'm a scrum master, I'm a product owner, I'm PM. Is depending upon the needs, or is that tough to do?
It's funny. There's completely varying opinions.
Yeah.
I bet you even within the three of us, we could give completely. I know that some people will say, yeah, there's something wrong with that. You need to be a specialist. Other people will say, no, there's nothing wrong with it. Try different things. I'm on the try different things camp, but on the other hand, I was a BA. I did one track for a long time. So I think it depends on you, but you need to try to find out which way is best for you.
All right.
I think so. For me, my response to the Swiss Army knife versus specialist, I was with you, Joe, until you started throwing in like some of the PM related stuff. And I worked for a consulting company here in the Twin Cities, and I was the technical interview for somebody who was, when we were trying to figure out if somebody was a BA or a PM, because we get a lot of people coming in as consultants wanting to join this firm, and they said they were both a BA and a PM. And our organization at that company, not my current company, did not believe that you could be both. And I have met maybe 2 or 3 people in my entire career that have been successful at being both a BA and a PM, but those people were a BA on a project or on an assignment and a PM on another assignment, never both at the same time, because those are very different hats. They're very different approaches to doing the work. So if you want to try stuff, go for it. Absolutely. I'm absolutely with Allison on that part. If you find something that you really love, and like for me, my original response was going to be, hey, for me, I've always called myself a business analyst. I did not want to get into, here in the Twin Cities, you can probably guess several places that I've worked, or if you've been in classes with me or talked with me or have seen me for a while, I've worked in healthcare, I've worked in finance. Surprise, surprise, in the Twin Cities, you worked in healthcare, because that's what we have here, right? But I've had people say, oh, well, you're a healthcare BA. No, I'm not. I am not a finance BA. I am a business analyst. I can learn whatever business you want me to learn. I am an expert in being a BA. And yes, I just said the E word. I can do this job in any situation, any organization, because I'm willing to learn about your business. Or by the way, there are business people there who it's their job to understand that business. So to me, that specialization is a slightly different way to look at it than kind of the way the question was originally asked. So for me, that's one thing that I always think about, right? Is if that's what you want to do. But then I've met some people who are like, I just had a student in a class a couple of months ago. It's like, I am a mortgage BA. I understand the mortgage industry. I want to continue to work in mortgages. More power to you. Awesome. Do it. That's just not me. And that's okay. It doesn't have to be.
Sounds good. Hans, anything you want to add to that?
Just quickly, if you're a specialist, it may be easier to find specific jobs, especially if you have depth in an area, because that's generally what people look for. If you want to move and have opportunities or potentially reach higher leadership areas, then being well-rounded could be advantageous, but it is going to make job hunting a lot harder.
Sounds awesome. I have a question here around organizations. As I read this question, I realize we probably have no input as to making them do this, but do organizations need to change to embrace business analysis better? Would that be, yeah, I know. As I'm reading it off, I'm going, great question, but not that we have that kind of control. Somebody want to take a first stab at that? Maybe the question should be, how could we convince organizations to better understand and better make use of a business analysis?
I think we have to prove ourselves, right? So let me take it this way and see if my partners in crime here can add on to this. If you're here, if you're sitting in this conference and your actual job title is maybe project manager, but you do requirements work or something like that, and you're starting to see some value in having a BA practice or having a separate role that is for business analysis, you need to start showing or start proving it out, like create the business case for business analysis. and why would it be beneficial? And there are a lot of organizations out there that see business analysis as part of that PM umbrella. And so why would I hire 2 people when I can just hire 1? And you can tell my opinion on that is they should be separate. Like I said, that's my opinion. Can some people do it? Absolutely. But when you separate those roles, you get somebody who specializes in asking the questions and doing the critical thinking, and not the person who's worrying more about, the triple constraints and stuff like that. So you have to kind of work on making that business case for why and what's a BA going to get for you. Hans, what were some of the metrics that you used way back in your COE days at the bank? I remember hearing some of them and thinking, ooh, that's the thing to measure. So sorry, Hans, I'm going to put you on the spot for that. I'm a horrible person. Smack me later.
Nope, it's fine. And I'll throw a link into the chat so that people can actually grab those metrics from the presentation. The short version is, for delivery metrics, it's very focused on percentage versus raw numbers. So the percentage of change requirements, the percentage of defects, the percentage completion in terms of requirements, because we're never done. Should have I done 10 or 10,000 requirements? That doesn't matter. But how good are the requirements? How well are they meeting our needs? What's the volatility after sign off? And then for our organization, we saw certification, whether it was through our private training company or through IIBA, as a definite career goal. So we wanted 90% of our BAs certified within 2 years of joining. And that was one of our career milestones that we were looking for.
Allison, you want to jump on that question in general?
I think, basically I agree with what both of those guys said, Jen and Hans. I think one of the things is exactly making a case. And to make the case, you need to have your metrics. One of the things, ultimately the organization is going to say to your question, Jen, why should I have 2 people? It's more the question should be, what's the difference if I just have 1 versus if I have 2? And so if we're able to start collecting some stats on, is my project any faster? Are we able to deliver the value that our business partners are looking for? If we're able to collect some metrics to that makes it a lot easier to be able to prove that, yeah, see, if you just had that 1 person, this is what you get. When you get the 2 people, you have your BA there, a dedicated BA, this is what you can get.
Absolutely.
Well, I have one question left, unless something jumps into mind. So reminder that if you have a question, toss it in the chat and I will pose it to the panel. My question is, any generic or specific tricks or tips how you can be a better business analyst in the future, make yourself more valuable, whatnot. So I'll start with Hans. Would you like to go first?
So I'm going to share a trick that is so simple it can't possibly work, but somehow still does. And it really relies on building empathy at the start of any effort. And it's called feel, felt, found. It was shared. I learned this from one of my lifelong career coaches, Dusty Rhodes, not the wrestler. And so what we want to do is start with acknowledging someone's pain or discomfort. Hey, I know you're really worried about this project dealing with the accounting system because so many people are dependent on it. Last upgrade didn't go so well. So I understand you're worried. Do you know that Molly over in HR felt the same way when we were working on her project? But what she found was when we really focused on what people were trying to do and aligned the changes to help them perform their jobs, they're actually a lot better off than they were before. So feel, acknowledge the empathy, felt, tie it to another story or someone else so that they could relate, and then found, what is the outcome or desired outcome that that person experienced that you can infer will be the same delivery here. So when you really have resistance, when you're trying to get stakeholders or users on board for something that's going to be difficult, that can be a great way of bringing them together.
Sounds good. Jen, would you like to add anything or give your two thoughts?
You know, as for trying to make yourself better or better yourself, you know, we've talked a little bit about some of these other we kind of talked a little bit about it already. And as Hans was talking, I was reminded of something that I picked up many years ago, and it's actually a little tidbit from my mother. And my mother worked as a paraprofessional in an elementary school. And I remember going home for like Christmas or, you know, holiday time, and I was frustrated with something going on at work. And she said, well, when that happens on the playground, this is what we do with the kids. And so even feel, felt, found sounded a little bit like that, which made me think of some of these, sometimes we don't stand up for ourselves maybe. And that was the kind of the example that was the situation that was happening. And the playground rule or the playground handling thing that occurs at the elementary school is something like, when you do, I feel this. Or for us as adults in a work environment, maybe it's not about how I feel, but it's about the consequence or what is the ramification. So for example, if you have leaders that are constantly changing your goals, or maybe it's your OKRs or something like that, like you're marching towards a goal and they're essentially moving the goalposts, they don't realize the impact that has. I've talked with leaders who we start talking about this frustration, and all of the BAs are going, I hate this, and it's so disruptive and it's so difficult. And there was a leader in a room once, and he said, are you kidding? Are you serious that's what happens when that's why you guys get all like, yeah, we've planned, like you're telling us go this way. And then all of a sudden the goalpost is over here. We're like, we now have to move, right? And it becomes really difficult. So the long and the short of it is some of these techniques that we learn as youngsters, as we teach small children, if you have little kids, or if you read, parenting books, it sounds silly, parenting books, those same ideas work on grown-ups. So you might have to adjust some of the language, right? But it truly does. We do need to create that empathy and help ourselves to feel a little bit more empowered to speak up for ourselves. And there are so many times when people do not understand the consequences of what they're saying. They just feel like, well, we're making an adjustment to the goal. They thought it was a little adjustment, right? That leader that I'm talking about, he thought it was a little adjustment and we'd be able to just, steer the ship a little differently and we'd still hit the goal. It was it was turning the Titanic to avoid the iceberg. It was not going to be that simple, but they didn't realize it. They didn't realize how deep that this issue was. So you have to be willing to kind of step up and have those conversations. I really start to talk about the being bold and stepping out of your comfort zone and stretching into that new space. You have to be willing to do it, and it's scary, but being bold for each person is gonna feel a little different for everybody. Some people don't like speaking in public, so their be bold moment might be stepping out and doing a presentation. For some people, it's speaking up to authority. I hate conflict. I hate that kind of conflict. I hate having to step up to authority and say, when you do this, this is what happens. Like, here's the consequence. That my palms are sweating just thinking about that. But I know it's important and I know I have to do it. And it's better for all of us to have that, make that happen.
Allison?
I would just, build on what Jen and Hans had said again. I think it's important to continue to have that lifelong learning, learn about the soft skills that Hans talked about earlier, learn about some techniques like what Jen had mentioned, expand your network. That is learning too, right? When you talk to people and they tell you about their experiences, or you attend sessions like this and you hear about experiences, that's learning too. And keep your eyes and ears open and don't be afraid to try new things. Jen, you just talked about be bold. I agree with that. Like, step out of your comfort zone, try something new, try to, a new experience and see what you think, how it works for you. If it's something you want to continue with or something, maybe you need to veer into another path. But all of those things to really expand you into a direction that hopefully will be the right one for you. It's not going to be the same for everybody, but something that's right for you.
Sounds awesome. Thank you, Allison. Jeff posed a question about compensation. I see an answer from Hans and Dan about IIBA study and roles and annual reviews. I'd also suggest that if you go to the consulting companies or placement companies, they know what the market is paying too. They have a good feel for what the range is and how much skills you have. And don't just go to one, go to 2 to 3 or 4 of them, because they all have a slightly different look at what the market is depending upon your background. Oh, Chris has a comment about amazed at what taking the right class at the right time will do for both your motivation and your career. I can see that. I think that's all contagious. All right, it is 4:35. I've got 5 more minutes before we wrap this up. Anybody have additional questions that we want to pose for a panel? Does anybody want to add some insight? I've actually seen more dialogue than questions on the chat log, so that's awesome. But if anybody has a question to pose to the panel, you can either toss it in the text or in the chat, or you can unmute for a second, ask the question. 5. I want to thank our panel today. Jen, Allison, and Hans, thank you so much for your energy and your insights. I also want to thank all the speakers today. It's been an awesome day. I want to thank our sponsors for providing the platform, my many volunteers working with me here at IIBA MSP, and then you, especially the attendees. Without you, we wouldn't be able to do this today. So thank you so much. I want to make a couple of quick announcements. Don't forget, please don't forget to do your survey.